Common sense. The more GPUs you buy,
To all my Pascal
the more
gamer
money you
friends,
save. That's right.
it
The
is
more
safe to
GPUs you
upgrade
buy,
now.
the more money you
Liquid
save.
cooled,
Work with me here.
fancy lights all over
The
it.
more you buy,
You lock
the
it
more
when you
you
leave.
save.
To all my Pascal gamer friends,
that's right. Work with me.
it is safe
The
to
more you buy,
upgrade
the
now.
more.
Our brand new GeForce RTX 50 series Blackwell architecture. The GPU is just a beast. RTX Blackwell 5090. For $15.99, you bring it home to your $10,000 PC
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
entertainment command center. Isn't that right? Don't tell me that's not true. Don't be ashamed. It's liquid cooled. Fancy lights all over it. You lock it when you leave.
Hello, and welcome to the Finny Games. It's your host, BBG, aka BrokeBlackGamer. There was a lot to go over. Nvidia GPUs and AMD GPUs have had lots of updates since CES 2025, and every time I tried to make a video, there was new information coming out, and I was also sick this past week, and as a personal trainer, I had to do a lot of New Year's resolutioners too. With that being said, let's get back into it. So it looks like the Nvidia GPUs, the 5000 series, just got a lot more interesting, and I'm actually a lot more excited about these GPUs. And DLSS4 looks like it has a lot of different generations. I mean, it looks like it has lots of different definitions. And DLSS4 will even be cross-compatible with the other RTX series of GPUs, with the exception of multi-frame generation. So multi-frame generation looks a lot like lossless scaling, where we'll be able to do ×3, ×4 multipliers. So when they said that the 5070 would be able to give you 4090 levels of performance, it was actually disingenuous, typical Nvidia marketing.
4090 performance at 549.
They could just say, okay, now you'll turn on ×4 frame gen, and with the RTX 4090 using base frame gen, which is ×2, you can go ×3, you can go ×3 or ×4, and you'll get that equivocal level of performance with ×4 frame generation, which is actually pretty funny. That they're even really using that as a as a way to say that it has like a lot more performance, which is fine by me. So multi-frame generation, that will be exclusive to the 5000 series GPUs. There's another thing that DLSS4 will have, and it will have a feature that allows it to use less VRAM, and I think it will be using less VRAM definitely due to the neural compression technology that they've added, especially with things like the teapot simulator. And DLSS4 will also have something called Reflex, and I think Reflex is a part of DLSS4, or I'm not sure if it's just an AI feature that's with the 5000 series GPUs. I'm not sure if this will be with the 4000 series GPU too, but Reflex looks pretty amazing.
NVIDIA has spent over 5 years studying input lag and responsiveness, which is how quickly a game displays the reaction to a player's inputs. A few milliseconds can be the difference between victory and defeat. Higher latency can hurt performance through missed hit registration, inconsistent aiming, and disadvantages when holding an angle. In 2020, we launched NVIDIA Reflex, which tightly synchronizes the CPU and the GPU to reduce latency by an average of 50% in top competitive titles. Today, we're announcing a breakthrough in our latency research with the introduction of Reflex 2 with frame warp. For example, when a player aims to the right, it takes some time for that action and the new camera perspective to be displayed. What if instead, an existing frame's camera could be shifted or warped to the right to show the results much sooner? Frame warp reduces your camera latency through this concept, which has gone from research to reality. Frame is being rendered by the GPU, the CPU is calculating the camera position of the next frame in the pipeline, based on the latest mouse input. Frame warp samples the new camera position from the CPU and warps the frame being rendered by the GPU to use this new camera position. The warp is conducted as late as possible, just before the rendered frame is sent to the display, ensuring the most recent mouse input is reflected on screen.
Wow.
To warp to the most recent camera position, frame warp shifts many of the game's pixels, which can create small holes in some regions of the image, especially when mouse movements are intense. However, NVIDIA has developed a latency-optimized predictive rendering algorithm which uses camera, color, and depth data from prior frames to in-paint these holes accurately. Players see the rendered frame, but with an updated camera perspective, reducing latency and improving your ability to aim, track, and hit more shots. Cutting-edge warp process, frame warp reduces latency by around an entire frame time, which amounts to nearly another 50% of latency savings on top of Reflex low latency mode, for a total reduction of 75% from native.
So anyway, Reflex is going to be able to get rid of a lot of those input lag / latency issues that a lot of us have been complaining about when we do use frame generation. And now, again, there's a difference between frame generation and DLSS, even though a lot of them are lumped together. So for example, DLSS is just an upscaler, so those frames would be 100% real. They wouldn't be integrated frames in between. You're just lowering the resolution. It's upscaling, and upscales it to a higher looking resolution. And DLSS 3 looks pretty close to native, so it looks really good in my opinion. However, some people are saying that fake frames with DLSS, no, they're different. Frame generation is a smoothing technique, and DLSS is an upscaling technique. And this new, even though they call it frame generation ×3 ×4, like lossless scaling, it will be more of a smoothness technique. So either way, DLSS4, it's bringing a lot to the table, and I know a lot of people are afraid that they're going to use DLSS as like a new terms of performance measure, probably in system requirements, like you need to play this game on your 50 trash 60. You're going to need your minimum requirements are going to be ×4 multi-frame gen, and you'll need the reflex mode turned on as well, and every other mode you can think of. So
AI is changing everything about how we work and play, and computer graphics is no exception. We've been reinventing computer graphics with artificial intelligence since the launch of RTX in 2018. DLSS is always learning. To improve the AI powering DLSS, we analyze image quality and fine-tune our training datasets and algorithms. Then we retrain the model to make it smarter, faster, and easier to integrate. DLSS is the best way to play. Today, we are introducing the biggest advancements to DLSS since 2020, including new multi-frame generation for RTX 50 series GPUs, enhanced frame generation for RTX 40 and 50 series users with faster performance and lower memory usage, and a new model powering ray reconstruction, super resolution, and deep learning anti-aliasing that enhances image quality and stability for all GeForce RTX users. Alongside the RTX 40 series in 2022, we launched frame generation, where an AI network used an optical flow field along with motion vectors from game geometry to generate a single frame between every pair of traditionally rendered frames. The Blackwell architecture is built for neural rendering, and that unlocks new AI capabilities for DLSS. We can now generate multiple frames per traditionally rendered frame. To make this possible, our research team developed a new AI model that generates the optical flow field more efficiently and more accurately in order to generate multiple frames. Multi-frame generation requires consistent and precise frame pacing. DLSS 3 frame pacing had variability because of how different game engines divided workloads between the CPU and GPU. With the Blackwell architecture, the display engine was improved to leverage flip metering when generating multiple frames, ensuring that the GPU delivers consistent and optimal frame pacing. Additionally, 5th generation tensor cores on RTX 50 series GPUs have the computational horsepower necessary to quickly execute the series of AI models. These software and hardware innovations enable DLSS4 on RTX 50 series GPUs to generate up to 3 additional frames between traditionally rendered frames.
The 4 teraops of AI tensor cores, impossible without the G7 memories. Okay, so 5070, 4090 performance, $549, and here's the whole family. Starting from 5070 all the way up to 5090. 5090, twice the performance of a 4090. Starting, of course, we're producing at very large scale availability.
So, despite how you feel about DLSS4, I think it's going to be a great asset to these 5000 series GPUs and going into the future. And I do think this validates my turbo analogy even more, because they did literally say they're going to turbocharge these GPUs. And I believe that's what Mr. Jensen said when he was on the stage, so he may have listened after the talk. However, the leaks and the spec leaks were pretty much 100% accurate, but the leaks regarding the prices that I had and several other content creators had as well, turns out those leaks weren't 100% true. However, I would still watch out and be aware of the prices still going up even further, which would not be unlikely because most of the GPUs do sell above MSRP, and if they got away with selling the 4090 for several months for $2,400, I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of 5090s going for that price. And again, I also do believe if you did buy a 4000 series GPU with the holiday extension return policy, again, still keep that GPU, hold on to it just in case the 5000 series GPUs are impossible to get. And also too, if the 5000 series GPUs are just a complete ripoff and you would rather just hold on to your 4000 series card, that would be a good thing to do as well. So getting into the prices, the 5090 is going to be selling for $2,000. The 5080 will be selling for $1,000. The 5070 Ti will be selling for $749. Base 5070 will be selling for $549. And again, like, I feel like these prices are okay, but Vex made a Excel spreadsheet that was comparing the specifications and the prices to these new GPUs. And if you look at the 4070 Ti Super and you compare that with the 5070 Ti and 5070, you can see there's actually not that big of a jump. And when you're looking at the 480 Super and you're looking at the 5080, you can see that there's not as big of a jump on these two cards either. And at first the rumors were talking about these crazy marginal high differences, and it looks like they were referring to multi-frame generation. Although I do believe that this neural compression technology will be amazing in regards to VRAM, because NVIDIA, they do not play around with their AI technology. I'm sure it will be top notch, and I have received criticism for liking DLSS and their upscaling technology. But as far as their upscaling technology goes, it's great. And if they can fix the frame generation latency issues with, again, this Reflex, that looks amazing as well. And again, I apologize for anyone who did take the leak prices for more than a grain of salt, but again, I still believe these GPUs, it's not too late for them to skyrocket in price. So if you do have a 4000 series GPU and you did get the holiday extension return policy, again, I would hold on to that and trade it in just in case these prices do go haywire. It would not. So what are my thoughts with these new GPU prices? The prices aren't as terrible as I thought they would be if this is what they actually sell for. So a lot of people know that I always like to get an 80 class card. However, I do feel like these 80 class cards, since the 4000th generation, are not true 80 class cards, and it's unfortunate. And with 16 gigabytes of VRAM on the 5080, that's still not that's not worth an upgrade from a 4080 Super. And with no news of the 5080 Ti yet, that would be my go-to card, or 4090, because I do need the extra VRAM. I'm not just trying to upgrade because I want to upgrade every generation. I just don't want to be in a VRAM deficit as a 4K RT Ultra enthusiast gamer. So I would like to make sure that I do have the most updated tech as far as 80 class cards go, or 90 class cards go with that. And with the limited VRAM and the 5080, that looks like a solid pass for me. However, I still might be waiting for a 5080, and if I could get a 5090 at MSRP, I got a text message from Micro Center saying that they had one, or that they'll have them on the 30th. If I could actually land one from $2,000 and I could sell my 4080 Super, that would be a possibility. But if you are looking to upgrade to a 5000 series GPU, I think now is a good time to do that. As long as these prices are like this, I could not argue that the 5070 is not a good value for 549. And I actually am a fan of lossless scaling, and I do use that with DLSS, not stacked with frame generation, but I do use DLSS stacked with lossless scaling. Sometimes with frame generation, it stacked with lossless scaling, it can get a little funky. And that leaves us to AMD's new 9070 series GPUs. Unfortunately, they did not advertise or even show these GPUs at CES 2025. We hardly got any information, but what we did get is this new upscaling technology that they did feature. Let's take a look.
On the red carpet here, but it looks like really unstable and weird on the left side on the old version of FSR. And then what would assumably be FSR4, it looks stable, it looks clean. If you look at this crowd and the bleachers and stuff, there's just so much like pixelation, weird ghosty things on the left side, very sharp. There's less ghosting, there's less pixelation going on. The characters look clear. All they did was point a camera at the screen and it looks like a lot better.
So as you can see, this technology looks great, and it looks like a huge step up over FSR3, which is amazing, because the only gripe I had with the upscaling technology on FSR is when I would use it, I would take that risk of seeing a substantially worse looking image. And when I would use DLSS, I would always know that it would be hard to tell the difference. There might be some ghosting or some things going back on in the background that Digital Foundry would find with zoom in technology. But as far as it goes, DLSS always looked pretty solid, but not FSR3. But with RDNA4 and FSR4 technology, it's actually starting to look great. So I'm sure with the 9070 and 9070 XT locked in with this technology, it will look amazing. But that also takes me to the naming structure. I don't know why they continue to want to be a bootleg version of NVIDIA. Why are you calling it 9070? RX 9070, you took out the T, and if we had RTX 5070, and what about when we get to the 9000 series of generation of GPU for NVIDIA? We will have a RTX 9070, and then from 3 generations ago, we'll have this bootleg looking AMD one. And that's just really bizarre and really weird. Is this duopoly true? Let me know in the comment section below. And also, FSR4 and RDNA4 will not be compatible with the 7000 series of AMD GPU, which I did not see that being too much of a problem. Matter of fact, I suspected it, because when you go from generation to generation, and because like I said, this AI technology, it is like having a turbo. It is a physical hardware that you need to run these upscaling and frame generation technologies. So I did not expect the 7900 XTX to have it, but there were some people who did believe that the 7900 XTX and some of the other 7000 series AMD GPUs would be compatible with this technology. However, it looks like that won't be the case. When we went from the 3000 series of NVIDIA GPU to the 4000 series NVIDIA GPU, we were not able to get that DLSS3 technology onto the 3000 series of GPUs, because the architecture for those GPUs just simply did not exist. And it's the same thing with the 7900 XTX moving from to the 9070 series of AMD GPU, which again is unfortunate, because the 7900 XTX would be an amazing card, and probably the best, second best card out there if it was able to use FSR4, and that would also help it with ray tracing and everything else, because we would be able to upscale, and that would have made this a really mint perfect card. So it's a shame that AMD dropped out when they were so close. Imagine if we had a card that had better performance levels in the 5080 and FSR4 technology. It would be a real card to go with. But unfortunately, AMD has really seemed to let us down lately with this CS 2025, but hopefully they'll jump back in the races and we'll see how things go from there. So until then, the Finny games are over. Enjoy your 5000 series GPUs.
This is like common sense. The more GPUs you buy, the more money you save. That's right. The more GPUs you buy, the more money.